Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Rangers manager Mark Warburton says he's more than capable of handling the pressure of an old firm game. The semi-final is only a couple of weeks away. Martin Canning says he understands the pressure and the frustration from the Hamilton supporters. And Robbie Neilson says he's confident Hearts can still finish second in the Premiership. Just a few of the talking points. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and mini Alan Ruff is alongside him because there are certain times when you don't really need a script on this programme. When it just comes towards you, you think to yourself, there's a serious mistake today on the programme as Statler and Waldorf decide to wear the same gear. It's just comedy gold from you two.
It's a reminder in case anybody hasn't dried their dishes yet that they better get to the sink and get on with it.
That's exactly it. So it's good to have Mark Guidi as our boot-room guest alongside Alan Ruff. And lots to talk about tonight. Of course, Mark Warburton, I think he's reacting to Neil Lennon on whether he can handle the pressure. He won't know what's coming his way. Well, I'm sure he's old enough and wise enough in the head. This is what he had to say about it today.
You can't turn around and say you're ready for it, but I'm also somewhat bemused by people who say you won't be able to deal with it. The fact is we've dealt with it all season. It's another game of football. We understand the significance of it. It's a highly important game for the fans, and it's a semi-final. I get that. I get all of that. But the fact is, it's another game of football. If you can't deal with it, don't be in the business. So my background has been one where we've been involved in many pressurised situations in and out of football. So if you can't deal with it, I shouldn't be doing the job. Simple as that.
Good point from Mark Warburton. If you can't deal with it, you shouldn't be doing the job. He says it's just another game of football. I can't wait. I can't wait till he realises it's not. It's like Graham Souness all those years ago, Ruffy, saying it's just another 3 points.
Yeah, I think he will be able to handle it, but I don't think he will know what he's going to expect, particularly in the week leading up to it and the day of the game and the aftermath of it as well, depending on how it goes. So it'll be a massive big day for him, and I definitely think it'll be something that he's never ever experienced before.
Yeah, I think, you know, as a manager, you deal with all sorts of things, and he's had more than his fair share this year. Some of it has niggled him. This one, however, is quite simply where one half of the city reacts either in a positive or a very negative light, Mark, when it goes, it goes against you.
Well, we're 17, 18 days away until the semi-final, Peter. In between times, expect Rangers to win the league, whether it's on Saturday or next midweek. So winning the league championship will take a bit of the focus away from the semi. But after that, I know Rangers have got the Petrofac Cup final, but in the grand scheme of things, that peels into the shadows with what's lying ahead. So he's got to get used to it. He will be bombarded over the next couple of weeks with questions about the Celtic game, and he's got to show that he's capable of handling it, that he's not going to bite for anything, and he's clever that way, so he'll be absolutely fine. But Alan's right, and as we all know, and I'm sure Davy Wade will brief him, but come a 12 o'clock kick-off that day, come that Sunday morning and he's getting to Hampden and he walks out up the tunnel at 5 to 12, it will absolutely scalp him in the face. He won't have had anything like it in his career.
Yeah, and the other good thing about it from Davy's point of view, knowing him as I do, Davy will just say to him, okay, the week before it, don't say this, this, and this, and you'll be fine, because you've obviously got it. I mean, it's like treading on eggshells, Ruffy, because we're all waiting on a line that you can jump on. Yeah,
well, we already saw a brief glimpse of it with Alan Stubbs. He threw a couple out there that he bit a couple of times, but this is going to be even 10 times more than that. If somebody does throw at him something at him and he doesn't give the right answer, it'll be all over everywhere, and it's something that he probably hasn't experienced before at that level. Yeah.
Does he throw in Mark Warburton? Does he throw in Martin Wycombe?
Well, it depends. I think Martin Wycombe sounds like he'll have to be reined in a little bit over the next couple of weeks by the medical staff. But if he's able to twist and turn, then I would guess, Peter, maybe placing the bench. If it's a wee bit of a gamble, throw him on the bench, and if you need him for 20 minutes, last 20, if you're chasing the game or extra time, whatever, then certainly having him available would be a big boost to Rangers. Yeah,
28 goals, Ruffy. I mean, it's you want to load the bases to try and get as much in your favour as possible.
Well, certainly, if the team line was to come in and he was 100% fit, it'd be a worry for Celtic, just by the amount of goals he scored. He was playing a wee bit more in a wider position, which might have made it a wee bit easier, but he was still scoring goals, and he would be somebody that would have to be watched.
Would you be worried about the pitch, Mark? I thought it was patchy the other night there in that game against Denmark.
Yeah, I was at Hampden the other night. It's not great. Certainly with evidence of the League Cup final a few weeks ago, the Hampden ground staff, they've got the capabilities to relay it pretty quickly. So maybe after the Petrofac Cup final on Sunday the 10th, that will give them 6 days, give it back-to-back semis. So I think they'll look at relaying it, Peter, because for National Cup semi-finals, live on TV, it's not sending out the right message in terms of our national stadium.
Yeah, but it's an expensive job to relay the pitch again. It was relayed for the League Cup final as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was relayed very quickly. You know, you're talking over 7 or 8 days, so obviously it's not knitted in as quickly as what they thought. It looked good on the day when we were all there, but obviously there's been games on it since. Maybe it just needed longer, but I would think they would need a good 10 days anyway of nobody playing on it to make it look, if they weren't going to rip it up, to make it look anywhere decent.
Yeah, well, suddenly we're back to domestic issues at the weekend. The early kick-off is Celtic against Hearts. Robbie Neilson reckons Hearts can still finish second. Is he putting an optimistic spin on it?
I'd be very surprised. Listen, he's got to send out that message to his players. What he doesn't want going into the split, Peter, with 5 games to go in a couple of weeks' time, is basically them kind of being isolated in third spot with nothing to play for. So the motivation is for him to keep sending out the message every day that we can catch Aberdeen and go and make a challenge there.
Yeah, he hasn't won at Celtic Park. Hearts haven't won at Celtic Park since I think 2009, Ruffy.
No, I think the last time was a backs to the wall, nothing each. They played particularly well. They set their stall out. Could have nicked it in the end if he tries and does to do that at the weekend again. It's always a bit dodgy because Celtic will create chances, and if they'd have taken the chances they had that day, they could have won quite easily. But no, I think Hearts have got big games coming up, and I think Robbie Neilson has already been in the paper saying that they will determine who's going to win this league.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this constant battle in here trying to come up with managers of the year, players of the year, Mark. I mean, I like Robbie Neilson as a guy, and again, I thought Hearts would finish in the top 3, but you know, is he one of those guys that would be in the reckoning for, or the running for manager of the year?
Yeah, I would think so. But Peter, I think there's probably 7 or 8 guys that are in, and the unfortunate thing is, you know yourself, whether it's the PFA or the football writers, the voting closes before the end of the season. So, you know, let's say for example, Peter Houston gets Falkirk through the playoffs and into Peter Houston would have to be the manager of the year if he managed to do that. Likewise, you've got like Jim McIntyre, who's won a cup, pushing for top 6. You've got Robbie Neilson, you've got Derek McInnes, still potentially win the league title. You know, you've got lots of good stories. You've got Matt McGee at Motherwell, you've got Paul Hartley at Dundee, Alan Archibald at Partick Thistle. I think there's loads of guys that are in the running, and I think you'll start to see the field kind of narrow down over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's so difficult. It might be a good idea just to give it to Billy Reid again, just to avoid all the controversy.
Mark's certainly not giving it to Ronnie Dale yet, anyway. Never even got mentioned.
There goes the hate mail.
Like I said, there's plenty in the running. Listen, Ronnie Dale, but again, he potentially could win a double, could win the league by 12 points, beat Rangers in the semi-final, win a Scottish Cup. But we all vote, Peter, before the end of the season. That's the unfortunate thing, but you can't avoid it, you can't get away around it. Yeah,
I mean, I know you were joking about it there, but it is amazing. This is the most outrageous season I've ever witnessed, where, you know, Roddy Dyler could win the double. I don't think he'll come anywhere close in anybody's mind to winning Manager of the Year. In fact, some people have suggested on this programme, wins the double, still not safe in his job.
Yeah. No, listen, it's very unfortunate for Ronnie Dyler. Where I do have sympathy for him is the fact that he hasn't had the chance to go head-to-head with Rangers over the course of a campaign. Now, had Rangers been in the league this year and last year, and he was winning the league, he wouldn't be under pressure for his job, Peter, even though results in Europe weren't great this season. It's the fact that he's not got Rangers. It's a gimme, or people think it's a gimme that he should win the title, and that's where I do have sympathy for him. Just before we go to the break, Arnaud Djoum reckons that Hearts could be challenging for the title next season. Do you see that when you look at the progression of them, Ruffy?
No, I don't think so. I think Hearts will be a top 3 team for a few number of years to come, but not winning it.
Okay then, I just asked that question just right at the end there so that Mark and Ruffy can be under pressure from 2 sets of supporters. We're going to hear from Martin Canning talking about the pressure for Hamilton Accies next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show. Alan Ruff is alongside me. Peter Martin, our bootroom guest, is the president of the Scottish Football Writers, Mark Guidi. Just before the break, we were talking about Hearts at the top end of the table. Aberdeen still want to try and chase Celtic for any possible slip-ups. And they're coming up against a team, Ruffy, that are in free fall in Hamilton Accies.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's unfortunate for Martin. You know, he's went in there, he's had his ups and downs, but he doesn't have the resources everybody else has. I mean, all these clubs that have been there, Kilmarnock have brought in another couple of players in the other day. He hasn't had any of the resources that the other clubs down there have got, so he's just got to go with what he has. And these players have been known, you know, to put up a show, and I'm sure Aberdeen will be very wary because if anything that Hamilton do have, it's a bit of fight about them. You know, collectively as a group, sometimes they can go out there and just get you that result you don't expect.
Yeah, well, the Accies board are sticking by and standing by Martin Canning, but the fans, I sense a real unrest among them now, Mark.
Yeah, I've been at Accies' last couple of home games, Peter, the derby against Motherwell and a couple of weeks ago as well, Partick Thistle. And yeah, the fans are turning. They've not won a home game in 6 months. It's not good enough. But, you know, I do admire the Hamilton board for standing by Martin. He's a young manager. The players respect him. But when fans are turning against him, you do have a problem. You've got to try and ride that. But the bottom line is, as Ruffy says, because of the budgets, Hamilton have the lowest budget in the league by a distance. And just survival for them every year is what it's about. So if they can avoid 11th place, then that's a good season for Hamilton.
Yeah, and of course Martin Canning is speaking today. He completely understands the frustrations of the supporters.
Because obviously every fan wants to see their team winning, that goes without saying. But for us, like I said before, we always knew it was going to be a difficult year. We had to punch above our weight. We've got to continue to work hard and make sure we get as many points, like I said, as we can.
Well, do you think they are going to be in that playoff place? We're now looking at teams are making those late signings. Kilmarnock come into that equation with a couple of signings. I think you know, the key is for Lee Clark is to try and just get that one position above, and that's what Hamilton are trying to do.
Well, it's 2 from 3, Peter. I think Dundee United are certainly going to be bottom or second bottom. Kilmarnock and Hamilton are in there as well. So pick 2 from 3. But the beauty of it is, with our league, our Premiership and our Championship with the playoffs, is when you get into that split, nerves kick in, and it's all about bottle as well as ability. And that's why I think our setup is really, really good. I know people talk about go to a 16-team league. Why change? What we've got is a good product, and because of the split, because of the playoff, we're going to have a really exciting final 5 games of the season. Yeah,
you wouldn't like to see it extended?
Absolutely not. Listen, if the TV companies come and say to us, we need to change and there's going to be an extra 50 million quid in the kitty, then fine, it's a no-brainer. But for me, it's change for the sake of change. We'll never get it perfect, but what we have just now is very good.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, when you think about it, Ruffy, exactly what Mark's saying there, that there's the excitement now, and suddenly you've got playoffs, suddenly you've got fans clamouring for tickets. I'm sure Hamilton don't want to be involved in it, but of the two, you know, I've always thought Hamilton would be in that playoff position from the start of the season.
Yeah, when I was falling into that category, basically because they don't score enough goals for me. You know, they get the goal that keeps them hanging in a game, but to get yourself out of the pressure, you've got to get that second goal, and they haven't been managing to do that recently. And if you look at most of the results, it's all by the odd goal. They don't get turned over that many times. You know, as I said earlier, I like the way they play. I like the passion they've got, the aggression they've got. They all fight, they all dig for each other, but it just not happen for them. When you go on that kind of run, it's really difficult to get out of it.
The one saving grace, I think, for Hamilton Accies, if they were to be involved in the playoff, they've been there before, they've been over the course, they know what it's like to upset the odds.
Yeah, against Hibs, and they come back from, what was it, 2-0 down in the first leg, and went Easter Road and won in penalty. So yeah, there's half a dozen players still there that were involved in that. So yeah, you would never rule them out, but it's going to be great Peter, you've got Falkirk or Hibs, Wraith Rovers are terrific. You couldn't rule them out.
Yep.
Just being the real dark horses. You've then got Hamilton or Dundee United or Kilmarnock, I think, in the playoff. And whatever happens over a good Premiership next season, and regardless of who's up and who's down, we're still going to have another exciting Championship too.
My gut feeling tells me, Ruffy, that this is going to be another twist in the tail. I think, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn and upsetting people, but I think the general feeling from the majority who are looking at it as a neutral, Hibs coming up would be the ideal preference. And then again, I know that's disrespectful to other clubs who want to try and upset it all. Falkirk and, as Mark mentioned, Wraith Rovers.
Yeah, well, I think if we all look at the league, the biggest disappointment has been the lack of big games. The lack of big derbies, Hibs Hearts derbies. Obviously we've got the Dundee United one, we've missed the Rangers Celtic one. You have to say, everybody says, well, what do a particular club bring to the party? And certainly Hibs have shown that 30-odd thousand of a support at the final. When they come up, if they did come up, they would add something to the league. And it's just unfortunate for the likes of Hamilton, Kilmarnock, who have got crowds of 3,000 and 4,000, but that's where they are, and they don't seem to be able to, even when they're on a good run, they don't seem to get up to that 5,000 and 6,000, where the other clubs who do well can get up there.
Yeah, and just mentioning, the likes of big crowds, if Hibs were to come up, let's just say Kilmarnock were to go out of the league, suddenly you would have a Dundee derby, you'd have Celtic against Rangers, you'd have the Lanarkshire derby,
the Edinburgh derby,
in the Edinburgh derby as well. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it would be great. And then the flip side, if you take it, Rangers are up, Peter, but you could potentially have a Championship next season with Hibs, Kilmarnock and Dundee United in it. Either way it's good. It just goes back to my point, like I say, I just think the talk of change is for the sake of it. I don't think we're going to get better. In terms of excitement and fan engagement in the final 6, 7, 8 games of the season, what we have now is as good as we'll get.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Hibs and John McGinn shortly, Ruffy, but just Mark mentioned a manager there that I told you a few weeks ago. We were batting about clubs that we thought were going to be the bottom end. Suddenly Mark McGee gets a hold of Motherwell, 5 wins in the last 6. If they win against Inverness at the weekend, they're top 6 with a game to spare.
Yeah, and I think the thing that came across more than anything when we had any of the Motherwell boys in, they didn't want to go through what they went through the last time. They didn't want to put their families through it more than anything else, the playoffs and everything. They said, it was Keith Lashley said, it was the worst experience he's ever had in his football career. And I think that is the drive that they had to stay away from the bottom this year.
Motherwell top 6, if they do it, a great achievement. I didn't see that run coming, but again, it's quite interesting the amount of teams that can still be involved in that top 6, Peter. But if they do it, then credit to Mark McGee and his players. Yeah,
absolutely. Two quick things before we finish, lads. St Mirren, it looks as if it's getting the go-ahead for a possible fan buyout there with, I think, Gordon Scott, one of the former directors, going in as the chairman. And more clubs are now getting the fans on board. I'm not too sure Celtic and the SPFL are too keen on fans having a greater say in the running of clubs, but St Mirren are moving that way.
I think there are certain clubs that will suit down to a T, and I think St Mirren are one of these clubs. I think for the last 4 or 5 years it's been buyouts here, buyouts there, and it's came and went, and I think at this particular time St Mirren need something more stable there and just move on. And obviously with Alec doing particularly well there, I think it'd be a good move for him.
Yeah, is it the future? Maybe a huge benefactor with the fans understanding what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'd like to see a mix, Peter. For me, I'd be interested whether it's St Mirren, Motherwell, whichever club it may be, the actual mechanics of how it works, how decisions are made, stuff like that. But St Mirren certainly need to do something. And Alec Ray has Ruffy said, he's been terrific. 8 wins from 15. I think they'd 2 from 16 up until he arrived. So whoever goes in, make sure that they appreciate the manager that they've got. Yeah,
absolutely. And just as a footnote, everybody's been talking about John McGinn. Alan Stubbs says he's not surprised by his man of the match performance for Scotland. He's just the red hot player at the moment.
Yeah, nothing phases him. Terrific player, delighted for him, that's for Hibs again. Adding to the fact that they want to get up, but let's say they don't get up. John McGinn will not want to play in the Championship next season, but Hibs got him for about 100 grand what's he worth now?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not try and get him a transfer too quickly, Ruffy. I'd like to see him stay in Scotland.
Yeah, I think he's, although it was only his first cap, I think he's the kind of player that we've been missing since James McFadden. I know he's a different kind of player, but for me, he's exciting to watch, and he likes to take people on, and we don't have many of them in Scotland.
Okay, thanks to Ruffy and to Mark Guidi. Don't forget, over the next couple of days, we'll probably run a competition. You can win one of these tea towels that both guys have been wearing on the programme tonight. It's just, when the two of them walked in, I thought, that is absolutely magnificent. On a day like today, when a Jambo sadly passed away in Ronnie Corbett, there you have the two Ronnies there sitting like two peas in a pod. It's good night from me, and it's good night from them.